Hey everybody, it's Monica with your best female figure, and today I have Circuit 5 from bodycon Female Fitness Plan. And as always, the first round is the original circuit from the ebook PDF printout, and all the rounds that follow are variations with different exercise modifications so that you can customize this workout to your body and your needs. Right, so the first exercise in the circuit is a curtsy lunge side kick, and this exercise really targets the glutes and the entire lower body as well as the core because the core is helping to stabilize. You can hold the hands anywhere you like for support, and once you do 8 reps on each side, you're moving on to the single leg glute kickback. And as the knee comes in, make sure that you are kind of rounding the spine a little bit, so you're kind of doing like a little mini crunch as that knee comes in, and then you're really working on extending the leg by squeezing the glutes and squeezing the shoulder blades together as well to support and take some weight off the shoulders and the wrists. If this exercise really bothers your wrists because you have carpal tunnel or any problem like that, just grab a towel and roll it up and then hang on to the towel, and that takes a lot of pressure off the wrists. Okay, so now we're on to this lateral leap with a ball twist, and I noticed that I'm using a smaller ball, and the reason for that is I want to focus more of the work into the core and less into the arms and shoulders. So if you use a bigger ball, you're going to work the arms, shoulders, and back a lot more, but if you use a small ball with concentrated weight, you're going to use the core a lot more. So it's entirely up to you. And as always, you can also use a dumbbell for that exercise if you don't have a small weighted ball. So now we're on to reverse lunge jump with a knee slam. So I'm not slamming that ball actually as hard as I slam the red ball because this ball has 10 pounds of water inside and it's sloshing around. So I'm already struggling, to maintain my balance. And notice how I only did 8 repetitions total because you're actually doing 2 lunges as you jump. So 2 lunges times 8. So that's 16. So now we're moving on to the ballet jump squat, and I'm only holding that TheraBand out to the sides. I'm not going back and forth, but you do have that option. And once you do 8 repetitions of that exercise, you're going to move on to the single leg deadlift with overhead raise. And again, I'm using the small ball, but you can use the larger ball or you can use dumbbells if you prefer, or a kettlebell. Whatever works for you or whatever you have available is going to be fine as long as you are contracting that core as you bend over and then using those glutes and hamstrings to pull that body upright. And then supporting with that upper back as you raise the ball overhead. And remember to keep that supporting leg knee slightly bent so that you don't lose your balance. And if you're only using one dumbbell, then you can always place your fingertips on a chair or bench for a little bit of support. But try not to put too much weight in there so that your core and your glutes really have to do the work. Okay, now this last exercise is actually a recovery exercise because you get to lay on the floor. So you're just going to do this single leg bridge with a leg extension, and you can place your foot on any kind of ball that will support your weight. A bench or a chair, even a suspension trainer is acceptable for this. And this is, your rest period. So after this, you're going to go back to the circuit without taking a break. So no breaks are allowed. This is your break. So enjoy it while it lasts, and catch your breath. And then you're going to go back to the circuit and do the second round with much, more challenging exercise variations, starting with this curtsy lunge side kick, but now you're alternating sides, which requires a lot more core stability and hip stability. So your balance is being challenged, and also it's a little bit more cardiovascular. So you're going to start to feel your heart rate going up a little bit higher than with the previous version of the exercise that I showed. And again, you're doing 8 repetitions on each side, and then you're moving on to the single leg down dog, except that this time you're going to add a mountain climber. Now, again, this is more dynamic than the previous version of the exercise that you watched in the last circuit. And this is also really great if you need to stretch your hip flexors and if you need some extra core work and also if you need some extra calorie and fat burning. So you are totally in control, of how intense and challenging your workout is every time you train. And that can change from week to week. Some weeks you might feel really energetic, and like gung ho, and you want to give, 110%. And then other weeks you may be struggling with stress or your, low energy levels, or maybe you're recovering from, an illness or something, and you won't be able to train as hard. So this is another reason why it's really great to learn as many exercise modifications as possible so that you can adapt things, from week to week. Okay, now this next version of the ballet jump squat is really fun because you actually get to jump up and down like a ballet dancer would. So you're not going to jump the feet in and out. You're actually just going to keep them out, and then you're going to jump up and down and pointing the toes and then landing with your toes pointing out at an angle, and with all the weight into the heels as you land gently, is going to take all the pressure off the knees. So, if you struggle with your knees a little bit, then don't be afraid of that exercise. It's actually not as harsh on the lower body as it looks. Now we're on to lateral leap with a ball twist, but this time notice how I'm not leaping and I'm doing really big movement with that water ball. All that water sloshing around in the ball makes your core and your glutes work really hard, and it really raises your heart rate, so it gives you an amazing, cardiovascular and fat burning effect for, that exercise, even though you're not leaping or jumping. So again, if you have any kind of problems with your knees or hips and you can't jump, there are ways that you can modify exercises to make them more intense without having to add any kind of jumping. So now we're on to reverse lunge hop with an overhead chop. So I'm adding that chopping movement, and I'm basically dragging that ball down to the side right by my hip. And as I jump back up, or really it's not a jump, it's more of a hop. As I'm hopping back up to standing, that ball is going overhead. So that big movement again is going to raise the heart rate. It's going to help you burn more fat and calories. And if you can't do that hop because you don't have good balance, or even that little hop is bothering your knees, you're still going to get an amazing, cardio fat burning from that exercise, even without having to do that jumping, just because of the overhead movement. Now this next exercise is the single leg deadlift with a knee raise and an overhead press. Notice how I'm only using one hand to press that ball overhead. If you use heavier weights for this exercise, it will really slow you down, and it will work your glutes and your hamstrings a lot harder. But so really it depends. It's up to you what kind of effect you want to get from this exercise. The more weight you use, then it becomes more of a muscle building strength workout, and the less weight you use, then it really targets, your deep abdominals, your core, your stability, your cardio balance, and all that. And this is a really good move because it's kind of a recovery move after some of the other stuff that you've been doing. So these last two exercises of the circuit are kind of like your break. So again, enjoy them, because right after that, you're going to get right back into the circuit one more time or two more times, depending on, whatever time limit you set for yourself. Okay, so now we're on to the single leg bridge. And this time you're keeping the legs straight, but you're going to lower it all the way down to the floor, and you're going to add a weighted pullover. So this is going to add to the balance challenge. Your hamstring and your glute are going to work a lot harder. You also may feel that your low back is getting a little bit more work, as well as your deep abdominals. Take this exercise a little bit slower than you would if you were not using a ball. And maybe you might want to push, the ball that you're using to support that bent leg up against the wall, so that it's not moving all over the place, and you feel a little bit more secure as you're doing this exercise. This exercise is really fun. It really challenges your coordination, and your balance and your, your deep abdominals as well. And again, it's a recovery exercise, so you're not going to be like, doing it really quickly, and you're not going to get a whole lot of cardio from this exercise, but you are getting kind of a break, and then you can get right back into your circuit one more time. And this time, we're going to go a lot harder. All right, now this last version of the circuit includes some really fun and challenging versions of the exercises, starting with this curtsy lunge side kick with a squat jump. So now you're combining, two movement patterns and it's going to make the exercise a lot more challenging and more intense. You're going to really feel your heart rate, get up there. And this is my preferred version when I really need to burn some fat and calories quickly. Like if I don't have a lot of time for a workout, then this is the version that I would choose because, it's the most efficient for fat burning. Of course, if that jump bothers you, you can always, take that out and just do the squatting portion. Okay, so now we're on to the plank knee in to single leg down dog glute kickback. So this is similar to that mountain climber glute kickback that we were doing in the previous circuit, but it involves a little bit more core and more upper body than that mountain climber. It's not as cardiovascular as the previous exercise, but it's definitely more challenging than the original exercise from the original circuit. Now, if you're not trying to build more shoulders and chest and upper back, then I would recommend that you not do this exercise. This exercise puts a lot of the work into the upper body, and if you're a cone shape or a ruler shape and you're, not trying to get bigger in those areas, you're just trying to get slimmer, then I would definitely stick with the other two versions instead of this one. This is still a great exercise. If you're not going to do it that often, then don't worry about it. But if you're doing this, on a regular basis, then definitely pick the other two versions. Okay, now I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes in the middle of my workout, I completely zone out and forget what I was doing. And that's not really because I'm physically tired, it's more because I'm mentally tired of, things that happen on a daily basis in my life. So, sometimes I kind of stand there and I have to take a couple of minutes to think about, what am I doing? And then get on with the workout. So if that happens to you, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Just take a couple of seconds and then get back in the zone. Now here we are back with a lateral leap and a circular motion. So we're adding a halo to this, and really that lateral leap is now turned into more of a side lunge, curtsy lunge kind of thing. So I'm not leaping. I'm actually just, doing a really big step out to the side and then lunging behind me, and then making sure that you circle that weight all around. And remember that every time that you do that circular motion, your heart rate is going, to get a lot higher. And you're still going to get that fat burning effect even though you're not doing any kind of leaping or jumping. Now with this exercise, I'm rolling the ball and I'm trying to stay close to the ground with my glutes, but that's, kind of hard to do. And that is the challenge of this exercise. And this is really amazing for your lower body. It burns a lot of fat and calories. And if you're adding that jump, and maybe even a ball toss if you want to, I wasn't adding one there, but you can add one. It will really make the exercise a lot more challenging and more intense. Okay, now in this version of the reverse lunge knee-in, I took out the jump and I took out the knee-in. I'm using a 10-pound medicine ball and I'm just twisting every time that I reverse lunge. So if you've been doing a lot of other jumping and leaping and you're starting to feel that fatigue set in, it's okay to back down on an exercise and kind of revert to a more basic version of the exercise. I wanted to show this too for beginners in case you can't do all the other variations that I showed previously. So it's okay to just, pick and choose for each exercise. On some exercises, you may be able to do the most advanced version, and then on others, you might have to do the most beginner version. So that's okay. You've got to pick what's right for you with each exercise. All right, now in this version of the single leg deadlift to knee and overhead press, I'm using a dumbbell and I'm actually trying to stay on one foot the entire time, although I am having a very hard time doing that. So I actually had to, put my fingertips on the chair to help a little bit with that. And then I actually tried holding the dumbbell, by the ends with both hands, and that actually did help. So those are all options that you can use. And if you can't balance on one leg the entire time, then you can always set that foot down every time, as I was doing in the previous versions, and in some of the reps on this version as well, because I think at that point I was getting kind of tired, and I was actually struggling with this workout. I haven't done it in a really long time. I did enjoy it very much though. Um, it was really fun to do it again. Um, and I actually wanted to repeat this workout, but I wasn't able to do that the week that I did it. So unfortunately, I only got to do it one time, and then I had to move on to other stuff. All right, so now this is the last version of the single leg bridge kick, and this time I'm going to add a resistance band, and I'm going to press with my heel into that resistance band. I had never tried this exercise before, and it's really fun and intense because it actually makes both sides of your glute work completely differently. So one side is stabilizing and the other side is actually, doing a movement that you do when you walk upstairs or just walk around in general. So, and your core also gets a lot more involved because, pushing that band creates instability. So your core has to work a little bit harder, to keep you balanced, especially with that other foot on the ball. So this is a fun version of the exercise to try if you have a band. Be sure that you use the hardest band that you can find. If you use kind of one that's too easy, it's not really going to feel like much of a challenge. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video and that it has been helpful. I will be back soon with more bodycon female fitness circuits to help you burn fat and get your best female figure. Thank you so much for watching.